Hi everybody, thank you for joining today's Fertility Circle event. Really glad to have you with us. As a reminder, Fertility Circle is the fertility friend in your pocket to support and empower you in your fertility choices. We're really lucky to be joined by Sarah today. Sarah is a fertility coach supporting women struggling to conceive. She uses neuroscience and a little bit of woo-woo, giving clients a set of tools to navigate the complex emotions that come along with a fertility journey. And sometimes becoming a mother doesn't actually take away the anxiety and fear that builds up through infertility. And so Sarah also works with women to help build a life that you're happy to wake up to every day for the future as well. So I'm just asking people to stay on mute for the time being, just to avoid any background noise, but feel free to have cameras on and or off. It's always lovely to have people in the room. Sarah, I'm going to pass over to you and you can add to that introduction, but we're just delighted to have you today. Sarah's going to be speaking on how to put yourself first and a little bit of self-care in what's trying times for us all. So over to you, Sarah.
Awesome. Thank you, Joe. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you guys so much for joining. Forgive me, I have a little bit of bedhead. It's like 7 a.m. here, and I've got a little one sleeping in the other room. So if we hear her crying, grandma's here and she will take care of her. So my topic today is, really about putting yourself first. And when my husband and I were trying to conceive my daughter, we, it my life took a backseat to just appointments and doctors and sitting there willing this baby to come, and I just totally neglected myself and my self-care, my relationships. So I think it is so important to try to just put yourself first. And then the other thing is that it doesn't get easier to put yourself first when you have a baby. So you have a tiny infant or a 1-year-old that just demands all of your attention, and it doesn't really get any easier to make sure that your needs are being met. So I try to kind of get that stuff established, get a routine established while you're going through treatment. And then it's so much easier to kind of transition it once you have, hopefully a baby that's sleeping through the night, or any time that you can get some free time. So with that, I'll go ahead and dive in. I have some slides over here. So if you kind of see me looking back and forth, that's what I'm doing. Feel free to ask questions during, either through the chat or unmute yourselves. It's a lot more fun when it's a little bit more interactive. So why putting yourself first is so important. So, when you do become a mom, especially after going through infertility, I think there's this extra layer of guilt and perfectionism, right? Because you've worked so hard to get here and have this baby. And, you feel so bad getting in a space where you're just like, I'm so tired. All I want you to do is go to sleep. I just want to get away from you for 5 minutes so that I can have some alone time, so I can go to the bathroom by myself. All those things that kind of take a different view when you have a baby. So it is important to put yourself first there, because I think the other thing too is that moms get kind of bombarded with so much stuff that you really aren't prepared for when you're going through infertility, when you're pregnant. You don't really understand all of the things and how much motherhood changes you. So when you can get yourself first in line, as you're going through the journey, it's just a lot easier to transition. So we stretch, women, I think, in general, and then of course moms, we stretch ourselves way too thin, and then we can get into a space where we become resentful of our situation, which then kind of only adds to the guilt and perfectionism that you already kind of have. I have found so many type A women going through infertility. I don't know what it is about us, but we want to control everything. We want everything to be perfect, and then when it's not, we come back on ourselves, and start beating ourselves up, which it doesn't help. When we're able to put our needs first, we have more reserves to draw from. So, I hate this saying, but I think it's so true, is that you can't pour from an empty cup. So, filling up yourself first really loving yourself first allows you then to just kind of let that spill over. And that's really been my motto since, kind of finding myself in my motherhood path through infertility, is that I can't give when I have nothing to give. And then I'm resentful when I'm trying to give. I'm going into appointments, with a nasty attitude. And it's just so much easier when you come from a place of self love and self care and compassion for where you're at. And it's easier to have a better perspective on what's going on in your life. Um, I think when we put ourselves first, we feel better about, like I said, kind of where we are, and then also our standing in motherhood. When you become a mom, especially after infertility, you've become so aligned with struggle, and things are so hard, and becoming a mom completely changes your life. So you're standing in this space where you literally have no idea what to do. So when you're loving yourself, putting yourself first, making sure that your needs are met, it's a little bit easier to feel like maybe your world's falling apart because you've got this kind of like pole in the ground where you can ground yourself and say, okay, I know that I'm okay in this moment. Even if my infant's crying, even if I found out I have bad test results, um, it's just a little bit easier that way. And then I think, kind of another thing pertaining to motherhood, after infertility, is that when you realize, how important you are, it's so much easier to pass that on to your kids, right? Um, you know, in my woo woo practice, energy is such a big thing that I work with, in using your own energy and influencing, it influences other people's energy, I know that, like, if you're standing in line at the grocery store and there's some person up ahead of you that's, super mad and like anxious, and they're yelling at the cashier, like, you can see the cashier's energy change, but then you also take that energy on yourself, right? So, when we're more resilient and patient and compassionate, we're going to teach our kids that. We're going to also, kind of pass that influence on to like our partners and our family and our friends. It's just such a, like, a radiating thing. It's like you turn on your light and then your light just passes to everybody else. So it's a really, I think, putting yourself first isn't, necessarily the easiest thing to do, but once you get there, it becomes so much easier. um so I say something that's kind of edgy all the time, and I know probably, if you're on that trying to conceive path, they're going to be like, you are crazy, but I always, I put myself first, right? Ahead of my daughter. So, like, I love her and I would do anything for her, and I did do anything to get her. um but once I became a mom, I was kind of standing in this space where, I was so drained, so dead, and I was looking around for support, and there was really no one or nothing there to support me, through my emotions, and to help me feel good about myself and where I was. Um, and once I started really checking in with myself, checking in with my body, understanding my triggers, and all those types of things, um, I was able to say, okay, like, and recognize when I wasn't putting myself first, right? Um, and again, kind of going back to what I just talked about, is that, I want her to grow up to be strong and independent, and know that she can do whatever she wants. And she's not going to be able to do that if she's putting her needs behind my needs, right? Or behind her dad's needs. So I think it's really important and empowering for women in general to just put themselves first and not feel bad about it. Um, it took me a long time to realize that I was a better mom, a better wife, a better sister, a better daughter when I did put myself first. I spent a lot of time growing up making sure that, everybody around me was happy, and I think a lot of people resonate with that. Um, I could be more present and show up more fully as a mom, more fully in my relationships, and honestly, literally just more fully when I'm like sitting here talking to you guys, when I can put myself and my needs and my wants first. Um, and in doing that, it helps me to kind of, like, it helps me deal with like those intruding thoughts of like the imposter syndrome or the comparing. I know like along a fertility journey, it's so hard to not compare your journey to other people's journey. Well, with thoughts of like, well, that should have worked, or look at this girl, she started after me and she's only done one round of IVF and now she's pregnant and I'm not. When we can address those issues and come from like a loving and compassionate place because we put ourselves first, it's so much easier to deal with those thoughts of guilt and comparing and all that good stuff. So I always tell everyone that I talk to, everybody on my Instagram, if you need permission to put yourself first, here it is. I'm giving it to you. Do it, girl. Like, you deserve it. And everybody else in your life deserves it too. Like I said, you show up in a much better space when you can allow yourself to be your number one.
Sarah, does putting yourself first mean putting other people second, or is there like a joint first?
I mean, personally, I would say that make yourself, excuse me, I'm sorry, let me take a drink. Make your relationship with yourself your number one priority. So when you find that relationship is suffering, because you're snapping or like acting out, or you can't get out of a bad headspace, address that first, right? So, if you had a bad day and you don't feel good and you get home and your husband's like, hey, where's dinner? Instead of just jumping on that, go ahead and say, hey, I need 15 minutes to read a book or take a shower or go to the bathroom or whatever. That is what, to me, putting yourself first is making sure that you can come from a place that is fulfilled when interacting with everybody else.
I like the concept of having a relationship with yourself, because I mean, it makes me think about the concept of self-talk and how sometimes we're our harshest critic or meanest. We wouldn't talk to a best friend that way. I wonder if you have any reflections on that.
Oh yeah, and I actually have a whole challenge, a 5-day challenge, email challenge, where you really start to look and see how you talk to yourself. And that was when I was going through infertility, before we ended up doing IVF. There was like a point when I was just like, who am I talking to? Like in my head, it was like such a stark realization of, I am being so mean to myself. And that's, of course there is no judgment, right? If that's the way that you want to keep living your life and doing things, that's okay. But I chose a different way. And I remember I had come home and the dog had gotten sick, and I wasn't feeling good, and there was like just this whole laundry list of stuff to do, and I was sitting there like berating myself, like, I should have let the dog out, and why didn't I do this, and I'm not feeling good, like I shoulda, coulda, woulda. And that's not a way to, you would never, like you said, Joe, you would never talk to your best friend like that ever. So and I do think that self-talk is really becoming aware of how you're talking to yourself is the first step in transitioning your relationship with yourself. So becoming aware of, wow, where did that thought come from? That's not how I want to be. I would never treat myself that way. I would never treat my best friend, my mom, my kid, my sister, my husband. Treat yourself well. You deserve it. And that acknowledgement is where, it's the first step, I think, in transforming your relationship. And the other thing is that, when you do become a mom, you're going to model the behavior, right? You're teaching your kids how to treat themselves. So when you're constantly berating yourself, well, that's what they're going to see and that's what they're going to learn. So if you can, especially when going through infertility, because it's so hard. And I know that, you can, I mean, maybe not everybody's like this, but I was so down on my body, feeling like it was failing me, and feeling like, basically like the world was out to get me. And then, talking to myself that way, saying things like, this isn't going to work. This is so hard. This is such a struggle. What did I do in my life to deserve all these things? and really like making it my fault. Infertility is not your fault. It's nothing that you did, that you're not being punished. It's just a circumstance, right? It's just a situation. And we can choose how we handle that situation. We can go through it beating ourselves up, or we can use it as an opportunity to change our relationship with ourselves, which is what I did and why, I love to help women do. So how can you spot like when your needs have taken a backseat, and of course, this is going to be different for everyone. I have examples of me and my clients that I've, have asked and been able to share. But, my biggest sign is like, I just start to feel burnt out. Like I have a mile long to-do list. I can't stop thinking about like what's next on my to-do list. It just feels like, it's piling up and up and up. Swirling negative thoughts that you cannot get rid of. I have, this is probably kind of silly, but I've named my negative loop. I just call her Sharon. I don't know why. But when I can't get rid of her, I'm like, oh, okay, there's Sharon. Like, I know something's up. I know I need to take a step back and look at what's going on in my life and see where I can kind of make some room for myself. Did you have a question, Joe?
No, just that's not crazy. That's an actual technique in acceptance and commitment therapy, from what I understand, where you start to like name your repetitive thought patterns, or you just tune out as if it's a radio and in the background. So it might play, but you don't actually have to be listening to that program at that time. You can just say, okay, that's just background music. And so there's different like separation techniques. And I understand that one of them is actually just naming it. Say, okay, that's just Sharon. I don't have to like listen to that. That's just, my neighbor wittering on again.
Another thing that I found that's really powerful for me is that I just think of my thoughts as clouds. So when when there's one that's there, I don't have to attach to it, right? I can just say, oh, it's just a cloud, and let it pass by and wave on by. I don't have to get kind of sucked into the storm. Another way to spot when those needs have taken a backseat is and this is one of my go-tos is like just snapping at people, coworkers, family, friends. My poor husband, when we were going through infertility, I don't know how he did it. I don't know how he put up with me, but I would, just snap at them for the dumbest, silliest things. Another good way to spot when your needs are taking backseat is not able to sleep. If you are having trouble sleeping, it's a really good indication that you have some things that are going on in your life, in your brain that are waking you up. And so, dealing with, taking a step back, right, and taking an inventory of your life and where you're at, what you want to change, if you want to put yourself first, those things can all be helpful. And I used to never sleep, and now, now I sleep like a rock unless I'm like super excited about something, which is, it's a different type of being awake, right? Instead of like, having my negative Sharon tape playing when I'm trying to sleep, it's like this excitement. So it's just a different, totally different vibe, right? Holding tension in your body. That one took me a lot longer to realize. I remember one day I was sitting at work and my jaw was just like so tight, and I was like, what is going on? And then I was like, holy cow, like I'm just holding so much tension up in my head and my neck and my shoulders. And it was causing me to have like gum problems because I was like grinding my teeth and chewing so much. So it's another way, that like our bodies are just trying to tell us like, hey, something's wrong, something's up. Pay attention to me, pay attention to you, and get some of these things resolved. And the final way that I have on here is like, when you're feeling judgmental, jealous, starting to compare yourself to others. I have a client who always says that she knows that something's up with her when she starts to judge other people, like she'll see a pregnancy announcement or something, which I know that those are so triggering and they're so hard and annoying. I unfollowed, unfriended many people who got pregnant, before me and got married after me. It was like a whole thing. But that's their life, right? And when you can come to a space of, this is me, this is my journey, this is my path, I don't need it to compare it to hers. It's a lot more empowering, and it's a lot better spot to be in. So I do want to say that, there is, don't judge yourself if you catch yourself doing some of these things. It can be really easy to kind of fall back into like a pattern of like, I should be happy all the time. I should be, I shouldn't be jealous. Don't make yourself wrong for having these feelings. We are all human. And I think infertility is probably one of the most humbling and humanizing experiences that you can have, because it literally takes you through every possible like extreme emotion, and infertility is trauma. You are going through something that is traumatic. So be gentle, be kind to yourself. It is not easy. But you are a warrior, you're a badass. You can do it. And my advice is definitely to try to change your relationship with yourself while you're doing it. Doing what you want to do. So this took me probably until I was like 35 years old, and I'm 36 now, so probably like 34. But I had never had anybody ask me, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, I have no idea. And that was how I actually transitioned into fertility coaching, was that I knew I got pregnant and I knew that I couldn't do my like 9 to 5 job anymore. Because I was like, I've tried for 3 years to have this baby, and now you're asking me to be away from her for 40 hours a week. Like, you are crazy. And so I was talking to one of my friends. She's like, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, I have no clue. So it's important, right? To start, like, I mean, check in with yourself. Are you doing things because that's what you've always done? Are you doing them because you're satisfying, maybe some like story that your parents were telling you about money? Like, I mean, my dad, I wanted to be a teacher my whole life, and my dad, would not let me do that because I was never going to make any money. So, I went into IT, which is fine, whatever, no judgment. I love my dad. I know he just wanted the best for me. But, it's so empowering when you can put yourself first and then come into a space of, yeah, well, what do I want to do? Right. So, and then, of course, this doesn't have to be on such a macro, like career, life-changing level. Right. One of the ways that I started tuning into what I want to do, and something that I really push with my clients, is that put together a routine, either a morning or an evening routine, where you can get some alone time and really just like check in and connect with yourself. I, talk a lot about like spirituality and the universe, and having that time to, receive those messages from, guides, God, the universe, whatever, deity that you talk to. And even, if you don't have that, like just yourself, it's so important to connect and take that time and figure out what you want to do. I mean, do I want to, in this next 5 minutes, do I want to just sit here and scroll on Instagram? Like, that's fine. You're allowed to do that. Take the time and do what you want to do. When you're better able to kind of choose what you want to do, I think it's a lot easier to handle those high stress and triggering moments, right? So I remember, so many times sitting in the fertility clinic waiting for my appointments or ultrasounds or blood work or whatever, the thousands of appointments you go to, being so like, I would get so frustrated if the doctor was late. And then, that kind of kicks off like, and oh my gosh, this doctor is late. And then, then I want to text my sister and be like, oh, this doctor's late. Why are doctors always late? And it starts this like negative thought pattern. And then towards the end of my journey, I would say, okay, well, like, I've got 10 minutes to sit here in this waiting room. Let me read this ebook. Let me pop on a podcast. Let me do something that's like fulfilling to me. And just taking those 10 minutes and letting yourself, have fun in whatever way you can have fun in that moment. That's going to bring your stress levels down, right? And, I mean, everybody loves in, the fertility community to say that, stress affects it. So find those ways that you can take 5 minutes and just lower your stress levels a little bit. And again, right, if you don't want to, that's okay too. Don't judge yourself. So another thing that I found, and I've walked through tons of clients with this, is that, you know, you could have a pile of laundry over here, 47 bills to pay over here, but when you're doing your morning routine and when you're checking in and doing your alone time, you don't have to worry about that stuff unless it's what you want to be doing, right? And there are some days, right, when maybe you're like, I gotta pay this bill right now, or else it's gonna sit here and bug me and be a weight on my shoulders, right? But do the things that you want to do, especially during those alone times, because it just helps you build connection and trust with yourself.
You mentioned a morning routine and alone time. Like, can you drill a bit deeper on like what that might look like for people, or some like examples of how they, even just being alone with yourself, it's not a common, not for everybody. So
Yeah, right. So it is. And that's why I say start with, just 5 minutes, right? Whatever it is that you want to do. I started meditating and that was how I kind of found it, but I hate meditating. And I found that I hated it when I did it, right? I'm like sitting there and I had like the monkiest mind. And so I'd be sitting there, trying, okay, clear my head, clear my head. And then I'm thinking about like what the cat's doing in the other room, and it started to frustrate me. So I was like, okay, like not doing meditating anymore. No more meditating. I have found that I love to do, like, there's if you can just Google it, I can't think of the woman's name, but there's morning pages and soul writing where you just pick up a journal and write everything that's in your head on 3 pages. And that for me has been life changing. So, if you want to read a self help book, if you want to, I don't know, it's like scroll. I follow inspirational hashtags on Instagram. I love scrolling through those. Um, so just taking 5 minutes and checking in with what you want to do. And again, like, right, you're not sold on your routine. So say you start meditating and you hate it, you don't have to continue meditating. I would say don't give up on the morning routine just because you found one thing that you don't like. It just means that there's an opportunity for you to find other stuff. So I actually started it with 5 minutes, and then I've been able to get up now. I get up at 4:30 with my husband, which is crazy, but I love doing that because I get so much more done. And the other thing too, when you're going through infertility before you become a mom, it's good to establish those practices because then they become habit. And when you get the baby sleeping, and you're not too tired, you can still kind of wake up. So Charlie's 1 now, and I wake up at 4:30, and then I have from 4:30 to 7 until she gets up, where I can just do whatever I want. Um, and I'm able to fill my time. And the other thing, I said about earlier about like the laundry or bills to pay or whatever, I always get like what I want to do done first. And then if I still have time, then I'll, tackle the household chores or, whatever. Any questions on a morning routine? I again have a 10 ways to get your morning routine up to snuff if you guys are interested. So let me know. Awesome.
great.
Um, oh, the other thing too that I want to say about like doing what you want to do is that when you have kids, you can also still do what you want to do with kids, right? I mean, maybe it's not necessarily like going to Ulta and picking out makeup, but like adults never get time to play, right? And it's like discouraged. But when you have kids, if you want to go outside, you could take them for a walk outside. You can you could paint, do creative things like as they get older, and it just ingrains those types of things in them too. They know that they can have fun. They watch their mom have fun or their parents have fun, and then your needs are still being met also. So like, I mean, if you're a creative soul and you love painting, bust out some finger paints with your kids. And I think when we get in the habit of meeting our own needs and fulfilling ourselves, then like I said a couple of times, like it just spills over and you teach your kids how to do it too, which is so powerful, because then you have like, you're healing yourself, but you're also healing them. And even more of the woo, you're healing the past generations as well. So I mean, like, how awesome and empowering is that? So all this to say is, you deserve to have fun. You deserve to live a life that you love. I know infertility is not, considered, I mean, it's not fun. It sucks. But it doesn't have to suck every minute of every day. And it doesn't have to take, the front seat or take over your life. You're allowed to um, find opportunities here to love yourself. And when you have a bad day, when you get bad results, love yourself through that too.
On that note, obviously some people have had difficult experiences with pregnancy loss. Is there any specific tips around how to put yourself first or self-care in those really, really devastating times?
I mean, my biggest thing is give yourself time. I mean, I've had a couple of clients go through miscarriage, and it is such a devastating thing. And I think, the biggest thing to say there is just love yourself through that too. Again, it's not your fault. There's nothing that you could have done differently. Um, it's just, the way the chips have fallen. So don't make yourself wrong for it. Um, and maybe that is the time to start doing some type of routine where you can just connect with yourself and know that in this moment, in this space, you are safe.
And what might someone expect from a kind of journey with a fertility coach, or someone like yourself? Like, how would you normally work with a client, and what can someone expect from that?
Sure. So I have a 12-week program where we meet once a week, for 60 minutes. And there are a lot of fertility coaches that have modules, right? You're doing this X, Y, and Z. Mine is more, no two people are the same. There's no two people on the same journey, right? Like, we have similar thoughts, we have similar things, but it's really more driven by you and how you feel like you could be supported in those moments. So we're going to talk through, what would your life look like? What blocks do you have to get there? And things like that, releasing our guilt, releasing our shame, and trusting in yourself and trusting in your path. So it's really a lot about, changing how you talk to yourself, changing the way that you look at your circumstances, perspective shifts, is a lot more energetic thought work than it is, like, here is a diet that could help you get pregnant. And I do want to say too, I 150 million% believe in this, because I ended up getting pregnant naturally. I'm pregnant now. I halfway through. And I totally believe that it is because I went through and cleared all of this stuff from my body. Like, I did so much energy work, so much healing work, and I have learned to love myself and my body and my path. And I really do believe that that's what helped me get pregnant naturally after having to go through IVF.
Huge congratulations.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Did you have something to offer the attendees today?
Yes, I do. If you guys are interested, I would love to do a free 60-minute coaching call with you. So send me a message. You can do it through the Fertility Circle app. You can find me on Instagram. I'm just at Sarah Mertzlufft. And then I can also give Joe my email, so you can email me to set that up. And then also, if you would, if you want to go further, I'll offer 15% off of the 3-month program too.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Yeah, you can link up to hello@thefertilitycircle.com. So someone's asking, if we don't have 3 months, are there any quick wins we can focus on around this?
I also have shorter packages. So I think, yes, everybody wants the quick wins, and I understand. I think to get the biggest transition and to get the most like bang for your buck, the 3-month program is the best, but I do have some smaller options. So you can find them on my website if you just go to sarahmertzlufft.com/coaching.
Right. Can you quickly see your surname is MER? I'm just going to put that in the chat. So
yeah, it's MERTZLUFT.com.
Yeah,
I love my husband, y'all.
Mertzlufft.com. So anyway, go to the app where we have experts, and then you can find Sarah in the we've got more people joining. Dropping back in and out, I think. But actually, I think that sort of starts to conclude. Is there anything more, any questions or anything more from you, Sarah?
No, yeah, if you guys think of anything, like I said, you can find me in the app, you can find me on Instagram. I'm all over the place. So
Brilliant. Thanks so much. It's been great.
Oh, I am sorry. I did have one more thing for my mamas, my infertility mamas. I've got a helping, or it's a Happy Mamas Ask for Help webinar coming up. So feel free to send me your email for that, and I'll get you on the list. I think that one's going to be fun too.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe.